Wow, there's days as a business owner you feel like you're just not getting anywhere. You know, it doesn't matter how much you get. You're focusing on all the things you need to be doing, and so it's good to take a step back and say, well, actually, if I made a list of things we've done, it's led me to great places. Looking back, it was well worth what we did, and it was the right choice. I already started the business out of my home, and I was doing most of the work that I was doing on location as a photographer, but I was using my basement as my studio space for producing artwork and a small setup, studio setup down there. So we were finding some success, but I was still getting to the point where I was trying to grow it so I could actually open a studio space of my own outside of, and so I was moving in the right direction, but not quickly enough at the point. So that was why we were trying to start getting a little bit more serious about the business end of things and not just the skill set of being a photographer. And so you were really my first sought after professional coaching in that. So thank you. You definitely opened my eyes to understanding and learning the value of finding people who have different experiences than I do and different skill sets than I do, and seeking them out to help us grow. What you don't realize at the time is that investment in yourself and in the business really allows us to make the moves that we have to make to go to those next steps. So it's a little bit of a leap of faith, but I do remember that being a little bit of a stressor, but looking back, it was well worth what we did, and it was the right choice. It's one thing to write it and reflect on it, but a coach is going to bring you back to it. And sometimes it's years later. You know, you bring me back to me now, it's like, oh, I got my wheels turning again on certain things. And I think that's the beauty of it, is having somebody who genuinely cares about you kind of give a hand here and there. And so I think this is fantastic. So Darren brought me this little forecast that we had written 5 years ago when we were trying to figure out what we were going to be doing when we grew up, and it's been fun. He brought it back in my own words, spitting back at me, and it's really neat to see how many of these things we've achieved, and the things we haven't achieved, like I mentioned to you earlier, have been intentional decisions. We've found the reason why we had to shift them and why they did or didn't fit us anymore. And so even though they may not have came to fruition here, they led us to bigger and better things, if that makes sense. They were stepping stones. So no, this has been a lot of fun. I can't believe that timed out so well. And what this is, for those that don't know, is Darren had me write, when he was coaching me, a 5-year forecast of where we would end up. And so here we are, reading it back to ourselves, and things like, I'll have a studio on a separate property. Well, here it is, large enough for small events, shooting space, and I said large enough for photographing a car. I photograph motorcycles in here. We have events all the time. We rent the space out for private events, and I photograph in here almost daily. So little things like that have been incredibly, it's fun to look back at them and say, wow. But it forced us to kind of sit and reflect on things. As you kind of brought that to my table today, it was nice to look back, but forecasting what we wanted to do, where we wanted to head, having some kind of a vision to kind of know if moves make sense, because if they don't kind of fit that vision, it's kind of hard not to. So I remember that being really helpful. I remember there being times of frustration where it's like, oh, it's homework, it's work. And I think that's when I started realizing as a business owner that I could only, it really didn't matter how great I was at what I did. If I didn't take some ownership of my business, and if that meant getting some help to do that, it was going to be very hard for me to make a run of it. But I remember walking away with there's still several nuggets that really glued in and stuck with me, and there's some little things that every time I say them, I'm like, oh, there's Darren. I remember that conversation. And Adrian and I, when I told you you were going to visit, there were a couple things I remember pointing out. I was like, we say pragmatic to dramatic pretty often, because it really helps people to understand, the practicality of what we do and the luxury of what we do, and how we really bring those things together. And so little things like that help us to get more clear on what it is we're trying to do and say, and then how that translates to our clients. Any business owner who, again, I don't care how good they are at what they do, you got to learn how to wear the business owner hat and be a business person as well. And it's okay not to you don't have to pretend that you have that figured out. In fact, you'll spin your wheels a lot longer if you try to just do it on your own. And really it detracts from what you should be doing. So yes, I recommend to all the businesses that I work with now, it's important to find somebody to help counsel you through growing your business and give you ideas and push your boundaries and help you get frustrated in the right places, because it's that grind and that work that really allow you to figure out how to make it run, and not only run, but run well and the way that you feel good about, so that you can satisfy that vision that you set in that process. But what I can say, Darren, about working with you, you always had a kind guiding hand, and you were always well at sharing your thoughts, but not imposing your thoughts, about helping us kind of seek our own answers, but making suggestions when it was necessary. So no, again, I thank you for that, and I think you kicked us off in a great direction, in the right direction. And if we were geographically closer, we'd probably see each other a heck of a lot more, I'm sure. But no, it's been a pleasure. So I do thank you for that, coaching.